I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. You're not invited to the wedding. Please don't make this harder. That was the text. No greeting, no warning. Just those words blinking on my screen as I stood at the ironing board, carefully smoothing out the creases in Noah's dress shirt, the same shirt he'd asked me to press for his rehearsal dinner this weekend. I stared at the message, the iron hovering midair, steam curling up toward my face like it needed to fill the silence for me. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Noah and I had just talked yesterday about the seating chart. I'd picked out the florist. I'd spoken to the venue manager personally. I called him right away. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. A few seconds later, a new text popped up. It's Jasmine's day. We've decided. We. Not he, but we. I set the iron down carefully, my hands trembling. I reread both messages, then again and again. I felt like the room was tilting slightly, as if I'd stepped off a curb I didn't see coming. I sat down on the edge of the couch, the silence in my house suddenly heavier than usual. No TV, no kettle whistling, just the faint ticking of the kitchen clock marking the exact moment my son told me I didn't belong at the most important day of his life. I picked up the phone again, typed why, then deleted it. What could I say that didn't sound like begging? Instead, I texted, I thought I was helping. No reply. I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee going cold and tried to remember the first sacrifice I ever made for Noah. It might have been the vacation I canceled when he got strep throat in 2nd grade. Or maybe it was the overnight shifts I picked up when he wanted to join the travel soccer team. Eventually, it all blurred together. Nights, weekends, holidays. I worked 3 jobs when he was in college, 2 when he started med school. We had 1 car between us, he had it during the week. I took the bus on weekends. When he graduated in that blue robe, I stood in the back of the crowd. No one noticed me crying except another mother, who quietly handed me a tissue without saying a word. I never told Noah that I'd sold my engagement ring to help with his down payment on that condo. He was already so proud of himself. I didn't want to diminish that with my sacrifice. Then came the engagement. I was thrilled when Noah told me about Jasmine. She's brilliant, Mom, he'd said. You'll love her. I tried. I truly did. Brought her flowers when they first came for dinner. Offered to help with the wedding planning, just a little guidance. No pressure. When the contracts came due, I co-signed a few to help them secure better rates. The venue manager knew me from my nursing days. I'd cared for his mother in the ICU. A handshake and a signature. Later, the deal was done. Jasmine had smiled and called me her wedding angel. That was 4 months ago. Now, I'm told my presence would make things harder. As if love ever made things easy. As if love isn't built on tension and release, sacrifice and compromise. I gave without keeping score. But apparently, someone was keeping track of where I stood, and the verdict was in outside. I opened the drawer where I kept the wedding binder, the one with receipts, vendor contacts, timelines, and ran my fingers across the labeled tabs. They really had no idea whose name was actually on everything. Did they? The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a heaviness in my chest that felt like something physical pressing down on me. I made myself tea and toast, barely tasting either. My phone showed no new messages from Noah, just the same cold text from yesterday, still sitting there unanswered. I opened the wedding binder, flipping through pages of contracts and confirmations. Each one had my signature at the bottom, not Noah's, not Jasmine's, mine. Emily Thompson, venue, florist, catering, linens, music, chairs. Every signature line held my name. It hadn't mattered when I offered to handle the paperwork. It was easier that way. I told myself, fewer hoops, better trust with the vendors. I knew people. I could move things along. But now, looking at those signatures, the meaning shifted entirely. William and I had been married for 15 years when he left. Noah was 12. Olivia only 10. We weren't rich, but we had a comfortable life in our modest suburban home. William worked in finance, and I was a nurse at Memorial Hospital. We hosted neighborhood barbecues in summer, and went skiing in winter. Until the day William came home and announced he'd fallen in love with Catherine, a woman from his office. She was 11 years younger than me, with no children in a sleek downtown apartment. "I need a fresh start, Em," he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. "I've given this family everything I have. Now I need something for myself." Everything he had I wanted to laugh. I'd been the one getting up at 5 a.m. to make lunches before my hospital shift. I'd been the one helping with homework, driving to soccer practices, remembering dentist appointments. I'd been the one holding our life together while he worked late and took weekend business trips that I later learned were with Catherine after the divorce. William moved into Catherine's apartment. He paid the minimum child support required by law, always a few days late. The kids visited every other weekend, coming home with stories about Catherine's fancy cooking and the rooftop pool in her building. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts to keep our house. The one luxury I refused to give up was the kids' education they stayed in their private school, even though it meant I sometimes skipped meals to make the tuition payments. Noah took his father's departure hard. He was at that vulnerable age when boys need their fathers most. He started acting out skipping classes, talking back, slamming doors. I tried to be patient, to be both mother and father, but there were days when I felt like I was failing at both. Olivia dealt with it differently. She became my little helper, growing up too fast for a 10-year-old. She'd make simple dinners when I worked late and help Noah with his homework. The weight of her assumed responsibility broke my heart. Over the years, William's visits with the kids became less frequent. He moved with Catherine to Boston for a better job opportunity, then to Chicago. The visits became phone calls, then birthday cards with checks inside. Noah excelled despite everything. He earned a scholarship to Emory University, then got into medical school at Northwestern. He was brilliant, dedicated, and driven, qualities I admired but worried about. Sometimes I wondered if he was trying to succeed just to prove something to his absent father. When Noah first mentioned Jasmine Martinez 2 years ago, something in his voice changed. He sounded lighter, happier than I'd heard him in years. She was completing her residency at the same hospital where Noah worked. "She's incredible, Mom," he told me over the phone. "Smartest person in the program, and she doesn't take crap from anyone." I was thrilled for him. After a string of brief relationships with women who never seemed quite right, Noah sounded like he'd found someone special. The first time Noah brought Jasmine to visit, I went all out. I cooked his favorite foods, bought fresh flowers for the guest room, and even had my hair done for the first time in months. I wanted to make a good impression. Jasmine was beautiful, tall, and poised, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She complimented my home politely, but looked around with an appraising eye that made me suddenly conscious of the worn sofa and outdated kitchen. "Noah's told me so much about you," she said, accepting the glass of wine I offered. "All good things, I hope," I joked. "Of course," she smiled. "He says you've been very supportive." There was something in her tone I couldn't quite place. Not quite warmth, not quite approval. More like she was acknowledging a fact without emotion. That first visit set the pattern for our relationship. Jasmine was unfailingly polite but maintained a certain distance. When they announced their engagement a year later, I threw them a small celebration dinner. Jasmine thanked me but mentioned they were planning a larger engagement party with both families the following month. I wasn't invited to that one. "It's just at her parents' country club, Mom," Noah explained when I asked. "Very formal, lots of her family flying in from out of town. You wouldn't enjoy it." It stung, but I told myself not to be oversensitive. When they started planning the wedding, I offered to help in any way I could. "Actually," Jasmine said, "my mother has connections with the best wedding planners in Atlanta, but we appreciate the offer." 2 weeks later, Noah called in a panic. The wedding venue they wanted required a substantial deposit, due immediately to secure the date. "We're good for it, Mom," he assured me. "It's just that our bonuses don't come through until next month. Could you possibly—" "Of course," I said, without hesitation. "Just tell me where to send the check." That was the beginning. One by one, vendors needed deposits. The florist Noah and Jasmine loved had a payment schedule that didn't align with their cash flow. The caterer required a co-signer on the contract because of a last-minute menu change. Each time, I stepped in. Each time. I told myself I was just helping my son have the wedding he deserved. But with each contract I signed, each check I wrote, something shifted in my relationship with Noah. Our weekly phone calls became briefer. When I asked about wedding details, he became vague or changed the subject. Jasmine's handling all that. Mom, you don't need to worry. Except it was my name on those contracts, my financial responsibility if anything went wrong. The day Noah brought Jasmine to dinner and she called me her wedding angel, I thought perhaps I'd been imagining the distance. Maybe things would be better now. But the next day, Noah called to tell me they'd decided I should limit my input on the wedding. Jasmine's feeling a bit overwhelmed, he explained. It's important that she feels in control of her special day. Her special day, not their special day, not a day the family would share. I agreed, of course. What else could I do? And now this text. You're not invited to the wedding. Not just limiting my input, removing me entirely. I called Olivia the next morning, my hands still shaking as I dialed. Olivia had always been my rock, the sensible one, the peacemaker. He did what she gasped when I told her about Noah's text. You heard me? I said, he said, trying to keep my voice steady. Apparently, I'm no longer welcome at the wedding. There was a long silence. I could almost hear Olivia thinking, weighing her words carefully. Have you talked to him directly? Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. I've called 3 times. He won't pick up. Another pause. What about Jasmine? Could you call her? Olivia, please. I'm not going to beg for an invitation to my own son's wedding. No, of course not, she sighed. This is so unlike Noah. I mean, he can be obtuse sometimes. But this is cruel. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. I know. That's why I wondered if you might have heard anything. Has he said anything to you about problems between us? No, nothing specific. She hesitated. Just that Jasmine sometimes feels you're too involved, that you have opinions about everything. The words stung like a slap. Too involved, I've barely seen them in months, and when have I ever forced my opinions on them? Mom, I'm just telling you what he said. I don't agree with it. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. I know, honey. I'm sorry. Look, Olivia said, her voice gentling. I'll talk to Noah. There has to be more to this. But maybe just give them a little space right now. Let them have their moment. The same words Noah had used about the engagement party I wasn't invited to. The same sentiment in his text. It's Jasmine's day. Space, I repeated. Right. After we hung up, I sat staring at the wall, Olivia's advice echoing in my mind. Give them space. Let them have their moment. But what about my moment? When did a mother get to share in her son's joy? When was it appropriate for me to matter in this equation I called Rachel Wilson next? Rachel and I had been friends since nursing school, over 30 years ago. She'd been there through my marriage, my children's births, my divorce, and every crisis in between. If anyone would give me unfiltered advice, it would be Rachel. He did not, she said when I told her, her voice rising in indignation. Emily, that's beyond hurtful. That's downright cruel. Olivia thinks I should give them space. Space? You've given that boy nothing but space and support, and love, and money. Apparently. How much space does one wedding need? I felt tears welling up again. I don't understand what I did wrong. Rachel, you didn't do anything wrong. This has Jasmine written all over it. She's isolating him, one step at a time. First the engagement party, now the wedding. Next it'll be holidays, birthdays. You think so? The thought made my stomach tighten. I've seen it before. My cousin's wife did the same thing. By the time they'd been married 5 years, he barely spoke to any of his family. I didn't want to believe that Jasmine would deliberately come between Noah and me. She was ambitious and perhaps a bit cold, but calculating I wasn't sure. What should I do? I asked. Rachel didn't hesitate. First, check those contracts. If your name is on them, you have power you're not using. Second, don't beg, don't plead, and don't apologize for something you didn't do. And third, maybe talk to a lawyer. A lawyer, Rachel? I'm not suing my son. Not to sue him, to understand your options. Those contracts represent real financial commitments. If they're in your name, you need to know where you stand legally. After we hung up, I thought about Rachel's advice. It was more assertive than Olivia's, but it also acknowledged something important. I had agency in this situation. I wasn't just a victim of my son's decision. I had choices too. Before I could decide what to do next. My phone rang. The name on the screen made me pause. William. My ex-husband hadn't called me directly in years. Usually, any necessary communication went through the kids or, occasionally, email. What could he possibly want now? I answered cautiously. Hello. Hey, Em, he said, his voice irritatingly casual, as if we'd spoken last week instead of 3 years ago. Hope you're doing all right. What do you want, William? No point in pleasantries after all this time. Listen, I'm just reaching out to collect everyone's part for the group wedding gift. We're pooling together for a down payment surprise. Something special for Noah and Jasmine. I didn't say a word. It's $2,800 per person, he continued, oblivious to my silence. Just transfer it to my account whenever. I'll handle the logistics. I gripped the phone tighter. William, I'm not invited to the wedding. He paused, then scoffed like I'd brought up a minor inconvenience. This isn't about that. Emily, don't be petty. It's for the kids. For family. Family. That word. They only used it when they needed something. I won't be contributing, I said evenly. He chuckled like I'd just told a bitter joke. You sure you want to play it like this? Goodbye, William. I ended the call. No explanation, no justification. I sat there in the stillness, staring at the wedding binder on the table. Not one of them had asked if I was okay. They only called to see what I'd give next. They didn't realize I'd already given the last thing I ever would, and I still had the contracts to prove it. The next morning, I called Nia Davis, a lawyer friend who had helped me draw up my living trust last year after a bad fall, reminded me that no one is promised tomorrow. Can we meet? I asked. I need your eyes on something. Of course, she said. Is everything okay? No, I admitted. But I'm hoping you can help me figure out if it can be. We arranged to meet that afternoon at her office. I brought the wedding binder, now feeling like a lead weight in my hands. Nia's office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, with creaking hardwood floors and tall windows that let in streams of natural light. She welcomed me with a warm hug and concerned eyes. You look exhausted, she said, gesturing for me to sit. What's going on? I placed the binder on her desk and told her everything Noah's text, the contracts, William's call about the group gift. As I spoke, Nia opened the binder and began examining the documents, her expression growing increasingly concerned. Emily, she said when I finished, do you realize what you've done here? Signed my life away. I attempted a weak joke. Not exactly. She turned one of the contracts toward me, pointing to a clause near the bottom. These are all in your name, not as a co-signer, not as a guarantor, as the client. The contracted party. I know, I signed them. No, you're not understanding. Nia flipped through more pages. You are the legal party responsible for these services. Noah and Jasmine aren't on these contracts at all, except as the bride and groom being served. You are the customer. These companies have a business relationship with you, not with them. I frowned, not quite following. What does that mean, exactly? It means, Nia said, tapping a clause in the venue contract, that you have control over these services. If you don't make the final payments, the services don't happen. And look here. She pointed to another section. Payment due 7 days before the event or agreement void. Refunds of deposits come back to you. Services revert to your name. I stared at her, the implications slowly dawning on me. Are you saying I could cancel their wedding? Legally, yes. Nia sat back, watching me carefully. You could cancel every service you've contracted. Or you could change the specifications, different menu, different flowers, different music. Legally, it's all within your rights. But morally, I whispered. Nia sighed. That's not for me to say, Emily, but let me ask you, is it moral to exclude a mother from her son's wedding? Is it moral to accept thousands of dollars in financial support and then shut the door in someone's face? Is it moral to expect you to contribute $2,800 more to a wedding you're not invited to attend? Put that way, it seemed clear. But this wasn't just anyone, this was Noah. My son. The little boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The teenager who'd defended me fiercely when William left. The young man who'd hugged me so tight at his medical school graduation that I could barely breathe. I can't destroy his wedding, I said finally. No matter what he's done. No one's suggesting you should, Nia said gently. But you need to understand your position here. This isn't revenge, Emily. It's protection. Protection of your time, your labor, your value. You didn't ask to be erased, but you don't have to fund it. I nodded slowly, running my fingers over the signature line on the last page. The ink had long dried, but now it felt freshly written. Nia closed the binder and slid it back toward me. Whatever you decide, she said, you hold all the cards. Just remember that. And for once, I believed her. That night, I sat alone in my kitchen, nursing a glass of wine and staring at my laptop screen. The emails to all the vendors were drafted but unsent. Each one was specific, calm, and legally sound, to whom it may concern. As the contracted client for the event scheduled on August 30th under Claramone Events, I am writing to notify you that the final payment will not be made per the terms of our agreement. Please consider this official notice of cancellation. Kindly process the return of the initial deposit to the business account on file. Thank you. Emily Thompson. My finger hovered over the send button, but I couldn't make myself press it. Not yet. This wasn't a decision to make in anger, no matter how justified that anger might be. I scheduled all the emails to send automatically 7 days before the wedding, the deadline for final payments according to the contracts. Not as a threat, not as a warning, just a quiet removal of myself from the machinery they assumed would run without me. Then I closed the laptop, pushed it gently to the side, and folded my hands in my lap. There was no shaking this time, no tears, just the slow settling of everything inside me. I didn't feel like the villain. I didn't even feel triumphant. I felt still, like something had finally stopped spinning. Upstairs, in the back of my closet, my dress for the wedding still hung in its plastic wrap. Pale blue, simple, chosen carefully to be appropriate without drawing attention. I'd spent more than I should have on it, wanting to look my best on Noah's special day. Now it would never leave that closet. I took it out and laid it on the bed, smoothing the fabric with my palm. Then I picked up my phone and opened a new browser tab. I typed one word into the search bar, Maui. If Noah and Jasmine were going to have their day without me, then I would have my own day somewhere far away, somewhere beautiful, somewhere I could start to heal from this wound that felt like it might never close. The next morning, I booked my flight and a beachfront hotel. I'd leave the day before the wedding and return a week later. No phone calls, no messages, no social media. Just me, the ocean, and the space to figure out who Emily Thompson was when she wasn't being Noah and Olivia's mother. As I confirmed the reservation, a strange calm settled over me. I still hadn't decided whether to let those cancellation emails send automatically while I was away. I had 7 days to make that choice. 7 days to decide whether to let go completely or burn the bridge behind me. The morning sun in Maui painted the ocean in shades of blue I'd never seen before. From my hotel balcony, I watched early swimmers cutting through the gentle waves, their movements calm and purposeful. I sipped my coffee slowly, savoring the unfamiliar peace. It was Friday, the day before Noah and Jasmine's wedding, or what should have been their wedding. The automated emails to the vendors were scheduled to send at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, here in Hawaii. That was 3 a.m., when I'd been sleeping more deeply than I had in weeks. I hadn't made the decision lightly. For days, I'd gone back and forth, questioning myself, second-guessing, even preparing to cancel the automated emails. But then I'd remember Noah's text. You're not invited to the wedding. Please don't make this harder. Cold, dismissive words that erased 32 years of love and sacrifice. Last night, as midnight approached in my Maui hotel room, I'd made my choice. I let the emails stand. Now, watching the horizon where sky met ocean, I felt strangely weightless. Not happy, no. This wasn't happiness, but the crushing pressure in my chest had eased. I could breathe again. My phone lay face down on the side table. I hadn't checked it since arriving in Maui yesterday. Part of me wanted to keep it that way to extend this peaceful bubble for as long as possible, but I knew that ignoring reality wouldn't make it disappear. With a deep breath, I picked up the phone and turned it over. The screen lit up with notifications, 3 missed calls from the venue manager, 2 voicemails from the caterer, a text from the florist. Please call regarding your cancellation. But nothing from Noah, not yet. I set the phone down again, watching a young family on the beach below. The father was building a sandcastle with 2 small children while the mother took pictures, laughing as the smaller child kept knocking down their creations. Just a normal family, enjoying a normal day together. How simple it looked from a distance. I thought back to when Noah was that small, how he'd insist on bringing me special rocks from every beach trip, his tiny hands clutching pebbles like they were precious gems. I kept them all in a jar on my windowsill. After 30 years, that jar was still there, dusty but treasured. Would Noah remember those rocks? Did he ever think about the thousands of small moments that built our relationship? Or had all of that been overshadowed by whatever narrative Jasmine had constructed? The phone buzzed again. The venue manager calling for the 4th time. I let it go to voicemail. This wasn't the first time Noah had shut me out of an important milestone. When he graduated from medical school, he'd initially told me not to come. It's going to be crazy. Mom, he'd said. Too many people, not enough tickets, and it's during your busy week at the hospital. I'd had to call the university myself, pretend I was his aunt, just to find out when and where the ceremony would be held. I requested time off work, drove 6 hours alone, and sat in the back row, crying silent tears of pride when he walked across that stage. Later, when I appeared at his celebration dinner, a surprise arranged with help from his roommate Noah had seemed genuinely happy to see me. He'd hugged me tightly, introduced me to his professors, even thanked me in a toast. But the next day, he was distant again, making excuses about why I couldn't help him move into his new apartment. It was a pattern, I realized now, one I'd been too blind to see, or perhaps too afraid to acknowledge. My phone buzzed once more, a text message this time. Reluctantly, I checked it. It was from Olivia. Mom, what's happening? Noah's freaking out. The venue called him saying everything's been canceled. Did you do this? My heart raced. I hadn't expected the vendors to contact Noah directly. I'd assumed they'd try reaching me first, giving me time to prepare. Before I could decide how to respond to Olivia, another text came through. Mom, please call me. Noah just told me you're not in the wedding. I had no idea. He said he thought I knew. I never would have gone along with this. What's going on? I stared at the message, my hands suddenly cold despite the warm Hawaiian air. Noah had kept Olivia in the dark, too. He'd made her believe I knew about being excluded and had accepted it, that I wouldn't even be attending my own son's wedding while my daughter stood up as a bridesmaid. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just Noah being influenced by Jasmine's wishes. This was deliberate deception. I texted back, I'm in Maui. We'll call soon. Love you. As I was typing, my phone lit up with a call, Noah's name flashing on the screen. My finger hovered over the answer button, my heart pounding. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. I let it ring until it stopped. Seconds later, a voicemail notification appeared. With trembling fingers, I played it. Mom, what the hell? Noah's voice was tight with fury. The venue just called me. They said you canceled everything. The caterer too. What are you doing? Call me back right now. No concern for where I might be or how I might be feeling. No acknowledgement of his own role in this situation. Just anger that his plans had been disrupted. I deleted the voicemail without saving it. Setting the phone down, I walked to the edge of the balcony and gripped the railing. Below, the family was packing up their beach toys, the children protesting as parents insisted it was time for lunch. Normal family disagreements, handled with love and patience. My phone buzzed again, and again, and again. I ignored it, focusing instead on the rhythm of the waves. In and out. Rise and fall. Nature's own reminder that everything is temporary pain, joy, anger, love. All of it washes away eventually. After nearly an hour of constant notifications, I picked up my phone again. 23 missed calls, 14 voicemails, 36 text messages. Noah, Jasmine, William, the venue, the caterer, the florist, the DJ, everyone demanding answers. I scrolled through the texts, each one more desperate or angry than the last. From Noah, "Call me back," from Jasmine. "How could you do this to us?" from William. "You've gone too far this time." Emily. But it was a message from an unknown number that caught my attention. "Mrs. Thompson, this is Miguel Martinez, Jasmine's father. I need to speak with you urgently about the wedding. Please call me at this number." Jasmine's father, we'd never even met. She'd always made excuses for why her parents couldn't make it whenever I suggested getting both families together. Curious despite myself, I called the number. A man with a slight accent answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Thompson, thank you for calling back." "Mr. Martinez," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "What can I do for you?" There was a pause. "I understand there is a situation with my daughter's wedding." "There is," I confirmed, not volunteering more. Another pause. "Mrs. Thompson, I must ask, did you cancel the wedding arrangements?" "I didn't cancel the wedding," I said carefully. "I simply didn't make the final payments on contracts that were in my name." "I see." His tone was measured, thoughtful. "And may I ask why?" The question caught me off guard. No one else had asked why. They'd jumped straight to accusations and demands. "Because," I said slowly, "I was explicitly uninvited from attending by text message. After paying deposits and signing contracts for months, by text message, he sounded genuinely shocked. "Dios mío, that is not how we raise our children to behave." I felt tears threatening and blinked them back. "Mr. Martinez, I don't want to put you in an awkward position. This is between me and Noah. With all respect, Mrs. Thompson, when it involves my daughter's wedding, it concerns me as well." He sighed heavily. "I must confess, we were not aware you had been excluded. Jasmine told us you had declined to attend." A cold wave washed over me. "Declined? That's not true. I was told I wasn't welcome." "This is troubling," he said. "Very troubling. Mrs. Thompson, where are you now? Perhaps we could meet to discuss this." "I'm in Maui," I admitted. "I needed some distance." He was quiet for a moment. "I understand. More than you might think. Listen, I don't know what has happened between you and your son, or what role my daughter has played in this. But I believe in family, in respect. Would you permit me to try to address this situation?" I hesitated. "What did you have in mind? Let me speak with Jasmine and your son. Let me understand what has happened. Then perhaps we can find a solution that honors everyone." His kindness, coming from a stranger when my own family had shown none, nearly broke me. "Thank you, Mr. Martinez, but I'm not sure there is a solution at this point. The vendors have been notified. The deposits are being returned to my account. Perhaps not for the wedding tomorrow," he acknowledged. "But for the family going forward, this wound should not be left to fester." After we hung up, I sat motionless, absorbing the new information. Jasmine had lied to her parents about my declining to attend. What else had she lied about just then? My phone buzzed with a text from an unexpected source. It was Rachel, my best friend. "Check your email. You need to see what Jasmine's been posting." My stomach clenched as I opened my email. Rachel had forwarded screenshots from Jasmine's private Instagram account, accessed through a mutual friend. The most recent post showed Jasmine in tears, leaning against Noah, with the caption, "When your fiancé's toxic mother tries to ruin the biggest day of your life, but love conquers all." Hatched wedding drama. #toxic family, #we will overcome. Beneath it were dozens of sympathetic comments, people condemning the monster-in-law without knowing any of the facts. An earlier post from 2 months ago caught my eye. When your future MIL thinks she's planning your wedding. Had boundary issues my day, my way. And another from 4 months ago. Starting to think eloping was the better option. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Family drama. I scrolled through post after post, each one painting me as intrusive, controlling, and difficult, all while I was paying for the very wedding she complained about. The phone buzzed again. A text from Olivia. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Noah told me you two had agreed you wouldn't come because you weren't feeling well. I never would have gone along with this if I'd known the truth." I typed back, "It's not your fault, honey. We'll talk when I get back." Then, steeling myself, I did what I'd been avoiding. I called Noah. He answered immediately. "Mom, finally, what the hell is going on? Where are you?" "Hello, Noah," I said calmly. "I'm in Maui." "Maui? Are you kidding me? Our wedding is tomorrow." "Your wedding," I corrected. "I wasn't invited, remember?" There was a moment of stunned silence. Then, "Is that what this is about? You're throwing a tantrum because we wanted a day without drama." His words felt like a slap. "A tantrum, is that what you call it when someone refuses to pay for an event they've been explicitly told not to attend?" "You know it's not that simple," he snapped. Jasmine was stressed. Her family is traditional. She wanted everything perfect. "And I was the imperfection," I said flatly. "The divorced single mother who worked 3 jobs to put you through school. The embarrassment you needed to hide. That's not fair," he protested, but his voice had lost some of its conviction. "No," I agreed. "It's not fair. None of this is fair. It wasn't fair when you asked me to sign those contracts. It wasn't fair when you asked me for those deposits. And it certainly wasn't fair when you texted you didn't even call. Noah, you texted to tell me I wasn't welcome at your wedding." "Mom, I'm not finished," I cut in, surprising myself with my firmness. "I have spent my entire adult life putting you first. I've sacrificed sleep, relationships, financial security, everything for you and Olivia. I have never asked for gratitude. I have never asked for repayment. The only thing I ever wanted was to be treated with basic dignity and respect." The line went quiet. I could hear Noah breathing, but he didn't speak. "Do you know what it's like?" I continued, my voice softer now. "To be standing there ironing your shirt for the rehearsal dinner and receive a text saying you're not invited. Do you have any idea what that feels like?" I didn't send that text," Noah said finally. I froze. "What? Jasmine sent it. From my phone. I was in surgery." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. "Are you saying you didn't know?" A long pause. "I knew she was going to talk to you about scaling back your involvement. I didn't know she was going to uninvite you completely. Not until after. And when you found out." "What did you do then?" Noah. Another painful silence. "I should have called you." "I was going to." But then Jasmine was crying, saying how stressed she was, how her parents were pressuring her about the wedding being perfect. "So you chose her. It's not about choosing. Mom, she's going to be my wife. And I'm your mother. I always will be, whether you acknowledge me or not." I took a deep breath. "Noah, I didn't cancel your wedding out of spite. I canceled services I was paying for after being told I wasn't welcome. There's a difference." "Semantics," he muttered. "No, boundaries. Something I should have established long ago." I could hear voices in the background on his end, people shouting, phones ringing, the chaos of a wedding unraveling. "Look," Noah said, his voice tight. "We need to fix this. Can you uncancel everything? We'll figure out the rest later." "There's nothing to uncancel. Noah, the contracts are void. The deposits are being refunded. It's done." "So that's it, you've ruined everything and now you're just on vacation." The accusation stung, but I held firm. I've removed myself from a situation where I was not wanted. That's all. What you do next is up to you. You win, Mom. Is that what you want to hear? You win? The words hung between us. bitter and wrong. This was never about winning. Noah, there's no victory in having your child shut you out of their life. Only loss. After we hung up, I stood on the balcony for a long time, watching the waves roll in and out. My phone continued to buzz with messages and calls, but I ignored them all. I'd said what needed saying. Now I needed to process what Noah had told me. Jasmine had sent that text without his knowledge, but he'd gone along with it afterward, defended it, justified it. That hurt almost more than if he'd sent it himself. The sun was setting when I finally picked up my phone again. Among the frantic messages from wedding vendors and angry texts from William, there was a voicemail from Olivia. "Mom, it's me." Her voice was thick with tears. "I just want you to know I quit the wedding party. I told Noah I can't be part of this if you're not welcome. He tried to say it was all a misunderstanding, but I saw the texts. Mom, I know what happened. I love you, and I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner. Call me when you can." Tears slid down my cheeks as I listened to her message twice more. My daughter, my fierce, loyal girl. I called her back immediately. "Oh, Mom," she said when she answered, her voice breaking. "This is such a mess." "I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle." "Don't apologize," she said firmly. "You didn't do anything wrong. Noah and Jasmine did. And Dad, too, did. You know he called me asking for $2,800 for some group wedding gift. I couldn't help but laugh. A short, bitter sound. He called me, too, after I told him I wasn't invited. Unbelievable." She paused. "Mom, are you really in Maui?" "I am." "Looking at the most beautiful sunset you can imagine." "Good," Olivia said. "You deserve it. Stay there. Enjoy every minute. Let them deal with the fallout here." "What's happening there?" I couldn't help asking. Olivia snorted. "Chaos. Complete chaos. Jasmine's parents are furious not just about the wedding, but about her lying to them. Apparently, she told them you declined to come because you didn't approve of her." "Mr. Martinez called me," I admitted. "He seemed like a good man." "He is. He and Mrs. Martinez have been trying to get everyone to calm down and find a solution, but Jasmine's hysterical, Noah's defensive, and Dad's just making everything worse by yelling at everyone." It sounded like a nightmare, one I was grateful to be watching from 4,000 miles away. "What about the wedding?" I asked. "Are they still going ahead with it?" "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "They're trying to find another venue, but everything's booked. Mr. Martinez offered to pay for something smaller at a restaurant, but Jasmine says it's not what she envisioned. The whole thing is a circus." We talked a while longer, Olivia filling me in on more details, including how William had shown up at Noah's apartment, red-faced and shouting about how I'd always been difficult. "Dad's just mad because he was counting on that group gift money for his new boat," Olivia said. "He doesn't care about Noah and Jasmine's wedding at all." After we hung up, I ordered room service and ate dinner on my balcony, watching as stars appeared one by one over the ocean. For the first time since receiving Noah's text, I felt a sense of calm certainty. I had made the right decision not just about the wedding, but about taking this time for myself. Tomorrow, while Noah and Jasmine scrambled to salvage their wedding plans, I would be walking on a black sand beach. I would be swimming in clear blue waters. I would be healing. And for once, I wouldn't feel guilty about putting myself first. I woke early on Saturday wedding day to the sound of gentle rain pattering against the balcony. A tropical shower, the kind that passes quickly and leaves everything feeling fresh. I made coffee in the room and sat watching raindrops create ripples in the hotel pool below. My phone had finally fallen silent sometime around midnight. I'd turned it to silent mode but kept it nearby in case Olivia needed to reach me. Now, as I sipped my coffee, I checked it reluctantly. 17 missed calls, 29 text messages, 11 voicemails. Most were from Noah and Jasmine, growing increasingly frantic as the day had progressed. The final one, sent at 11:42 p.m., was from Noah. "The Martinez family is hosting a small ceremony at their country club tomorrow. Not what we planned, but at least it's something. I hope you're happy." I deleted it without responding. There were also 3 missed calls from William and a text that simply read, "This is why our marriage failed." Always so damn stubborn. I deleted that one too. The only message I read fully was from Olivia. Wedding officially scaled down to country club ceremony with immediate family only. Jasmine crying nonstop. Noah furious with everyone. Dad making everything about himself. The Martinez family trying to mediate, but even their patience is wearing thin. So glad you're far away from this train wreck. Love you. Mom, enjoy your day. I texted back a heart emoji and set the phone aside. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving behind a brilliant rainbow arching across the sky. I took it as a good omen, a reminder that even after storms, beauty emerges. I spent the morning exploring a nearby botanical garden, marveling at flowers I'd never seen before. Colors so vibrant they almost hurt to look at. Scents so rich they seemed to bypass my nose and go straight to some primal part of my brain. I took dozens of photos, not to share with anyone, just to remember this day. In the afternoon, I joined a small guided tour to a hidden waterfall. Our group hiked through dense forest, the path sometimes barely visible beneath the vegetation. The physical exertion felt good, a release of tension I hadn't realized I was still carrying. When we reached the waterfall, the guide encouraged us to swim in the pool at its base. The water is sacred, she explained. Locals believe it washes away old hurts and makes room for new blessings. I hadn't planned to swim, but something about her words called to me. I waded in, gasping at the cold, then ducked beneath the surface. When I emerged, water streaming down my face, I felt lighter somehow, cleansed, not just physically but emotionally. Back at the hotel, I showered and changed, then headed to the hotel restaurant for an early dinner. I chose a table on this terrace, facing the ocean. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. As I waited for my food, I found myself wondering about Noah and Jasmine's ceremony. It would be happening now, East Coast time, a small, hastily arranged affair at the Martinez family's country club. Not the lavish celebration they'd planned, but still a wedding. Would Noah miss me there? Would he have a moment of regret when he looked out at the gathered guests and didn't see his mother's face? Or would Jasmine's happiness be enough to erase any pangs of conscience? I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. The rage that had propelled me through those first few days had burned itself out, leaving behind a quieter, sadder emotion. Not quite forgiveness, I wasn't there yet, but something like acceptance. This was who Noah had chosen to be. This was the relationship he had chosen to prioritize. I couldn't change that. I could only decide how to respond to it. My food arrived, interrupting these thoughts. I ate slowly, savoring each bite, watching as the last light faded from the sky and stars began to appear. A gentle breeze carried the scent of plumeria from nearby gardens. I had just ordered dessert when my phone vibrated on the table. Olivia's name lit up the screen. I answered immediately. "Mom," her voice was strained. "Are you sitting down?" My heart raced. "What's wrong? Did something happen at the wedding?" "The wedding didn't happen," she said. "Jasmine called it off." I nearly dropped the phone. "What, why?" "It's complicated. Can I FaceTime you instead? This is too much for a regular call." Moments later, Olivia's face appeared on my screen. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair disheveled. Behind her, I could see what looked like a hotel room. "Olivia, what happened? Where are you?" She ran a hand through her hair. "I'm at the Marriott near the country club. It's been... God, Mom, I don't even know where to start." "The beginning is usually good," I suggested gently. She took a deep breath. "Okay." So everything was set for the small ceremony at the Martinez family's country club. Jasmine was still upset, but putting on a brave face. Noah was alternating between apologizing to everyone and blaming you. I winced, but didn't interrupt. The ceremony was supposed to start at 4. At 3:30, Mr. Martinez went to check on Jasmine and found her arguing with Dad. "William, what was he doing with Jasmine?" "That's where it gets weird," Olivia said. "Apparently, he was telling her that now was the perfect time to discuss the property." "What property?" "Your house. Mom, your house." Olivia's expression was grim. Mr. Ma Martinez overheard Dad telling Jasmine that once she and Noah were married, they should convince you to downsize and free up the family home. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My house. They were plotting to take my house. It gets worse, Olivia continued. When Mr. Martinez confronted them, Jasmine broke down and admitted that she and Dad had been discussing this for months. That's why she didn't want you at the wedding. She was afraid you'd somehow figure out their plan. The world seemed to tilt beneath me. William, my ex-husband who'd left me for a younger woman 20 years ago, the man who'd barely paid child support. He'd been conspiring with my future daughter-in-law to take my home. What about Noah? I asked, dreading the answer. Was he part of this too? Olivia hesitated. He claims he wasn't, that he had no idea. But honestly, Mom, I don't know what to believe anymore. My dessert arrived, but I barely noticed the server placing it in front of me. So what happened next? Mr. Martinez was furious. He confronted Noah and Dad in front of everyone. It was intense. Dad tried to play it off like it was just a casual conversation, but Mr. Martinez wasn't having it. He said, Olivia paused, a hint of a smile crossing her face. He said no daughter of his was going to marry into a family that treated elders with such disrespect. Despite everything, I felt a surge of warmth toward Miguel Martinez. A man I'd never met had stood up for me when my own son wouldn't. Anyway, Olivia continued, Jasmine started crying again. Noah was yelling at Dad. Dad was yelling back. Mrs. Martinez took Jasmine into another room, and then about 20 minutes later, Jasmine came out and announced that she couldn't go through with the wedding, that there were too many red flags, and she needed time to think. I sat back in my chair, stunned. So the wedding is what postponed canceled? Canceled, as far as I can tell. Jasmine gave Noah back the ring and everything. I tried to process this information, emotions swirling too quickly to name. Relief that my home wasn't at risk. Vindication that the truth had come out. Sadness for Noah, who'd just lost his fiancée. And underneath it all, a simmering anger at William, who'd apparently never stopped trying to take things from me. Even 20 years after our divorce. Where's Noah now? I asked finally. Olivia sighed. At his apartment. I think he left the country club right after Jasmine gave back the ring. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. Not even me. And William, who knows, who cares? Last I saw, Mr. Martinez was reading him the riot act in the parking lot. She paused. Mom, I'm so sorry about all of this. Don't apologize, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. I should have seen what was happening, she insisted. I should have asked more questions when Noah said you weren't coming to the wedding. I should have... Olivia, I interrupted gently. Stop. We can't change the past. All we can do is move forward. She nodded, wiping at her eyes. Are you coming home soon? My flight leaves Tuesday, I said. But I think I need this time. Ollie, I need to process everything. I understand. She hesitated. Do you think you'll talk to Noah when you get back? It was the question I'd been avoiding asking myself. I don't know, I admitted. I need to think about that too. After we hung up, I sat motionless, my dessert melting untouched in front of me. The beautiful Hawaiian evening continued around me, couples laughing at nearby tables, servers moving efficiently between them, the distant sound of waves breaking on the shore. But I felt disconnected from it all, my mind racing with this new information. William and Jasmine had been plotting to take my house, the home I'd fought to keep in the divorce, the home where I'd raised Noah and Olivia alone, the home I'd nearly lost twice when money was tight, working extra shifts to make the mortgage payments. And Noah, what did he know? Had he been part of the scheme? Or was he as blindsided as I was? I signaled for the check, suddenly needing to move, to walk, to expend some of this restless energy. The server must have sensed my distress, because he brought the check immediately and assured me the untouched dessert wouldn't be charged. I walked along the beach for nearly an hour, my sandals dangling from one hand as the warm sand squeezed between my toes. The moon was nearly full, casting a silver pathway across the dark water. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Noah. I need to talk to you. Please. For the first time in days, I responded, I'm in Hawaii until Tuesday. We can talk when I return. His reply came seconds later. Okay. I'm sorry. Mom. For everything. I stared at those words for a long time, wondering if they were genuine or just a reaction to Jasmine leaving him, wondering if they could possibly be enough to rebuild what had been broken. Sorry was just a word, after all, the easiest thing in the world to say. The real question was what would happen next. The remaining days in Maui passed in a blur of sunshine, salt water, and self-reflection. I hiked volcanic trails, learned to paddleboard in crystal blue waters, and spent hours sitting on my balcony watching the endless dance of waves against the shore. For the first time in decades, I had no one to care for but myself, no meals to prepare, no schedules to coordinate, no emotions to manage but my own. It felt like waking up from a long dream. My phone remained mostly quiet. Olivia checked in daily with brief updates. Noah still not answering calls. Dad trying to arrange a family meeting but otherwise, I existed in a peaceful bubble, untethered from the drama unfolding thousands of miles away. On my last night in Hawaii, I treated myself to dinner at the resort's upscale restaurant. A table for one, facing the sunset, with a glass of expensive wine I'd normally never indulge in. As twilight settled over the ocean, painting it in shades of purple and gold, I realized I wasn't dreading my return home as I'd expected. Instead, I felt fortified, like I'd built a new layer of armor around my heart, not to shut people out, but to protect what was precious inside. The flight back to Atlanta was long but uneventful. I slept for most of it, waking only for meals and brief stretches. When we landed, the Georgia heat hit me like a wall as I exited the terminal. After Maui's gentle breezes, Atlanta in August felt like stepping into a sauna. My house was exactly as I'd left it, clean, quiet, mine. I dropped my suitcase in the entryway and walked through each room, reacquainting myself with the space I'd fought so hard to keep. The kitchen where I'd taught Noah and Olivia to bake cookies. The living room where we'd built blanket forts on rainy days. The back porch where we'd watched meteor showers and counted fireflies. This house held the history of our family, the good and the bad, the joyful and the painful. The idea that William and Jasmine had plotted to take it from me made my skin crawl. What had they imagined? That I would meekly move into some small apartment while they claimed my home for themselves? I unpacked slowly, still jet-lagged from the long flight. As I was hanging clothes in my closet, I spotted the pale blue dress I'd bought for the wedding, still in its plastic cover. After a moment's hesitation, I took it out and laid it on the bed. It was a beautiful dress, classic. Elegant, age-appropriate without being matronly, everything a mother of the groom should be. I carefully removed it from the hanger and folded it into a donation bag. Someone else could create happy memories in it. After a light dinner, I called Olivia. I'm home, I told her when she answered. How are you doing? Better now that you're back, she said. Can I come over tomorrow? Of course, I've missed you. I've missed you too, Mom. So much has happened since you left. Tell me, I said, settling into my favorite chair. Olivia sighed. Where to start? Noah's been a wreck. Barely leaving his apartment, not answering most calls. He did talk to me once, the day after the non-wedding. He sounded broken, despite everything. My heart ached for my son. Does he still claim he didn't know about William and Jasmine's plan for my house? He swears he had no idea. Says he's horrified. But honestly, Mom, I don't know what to believe anymore. I understood her skepticism. Noah had already shown he was capable of deception when he'd let Olivia believe I knew about being excluded from the wedding. What about Jasmine? Any contact with her? None. She's gone completely silent, deleted her Instagram, changed her number, the works. Her parents are apparently mortified by the whole thing. Mr. Martinez called me to apologize again for his daughter's behavior. He sounds like a good man, I said, remembering our brief phone conversation. He is. He asked for your address, by the way. Said he wants to send you a formal apology on behalf of his family. That's not necessary, but it's kind of him. And then there's Dad, Olivia continued, her tone hardening. He's been trying to spin the whole thing like it was just a big misunderstanding. Called me 3 times claiming he was only trying to help by discussing your house with Jasmine. Help himself to my property, more like, I said dryly. Olivia laughed, a welcome sound. Exactly. I told him to save his excuses. I'm not interested. We talked a while longer, Olivia filling me in on more details of the chaotic non-wedding day and its aftermath. By the time we hung up, I was exhausted, the jet lag finally catching up with me. I fell into bed and slept dreamlessly for nearly 10 hours. The next morning, I woke feeling more refreshed than I had in weeks. I made coffee and took it out to my small back garden, watching as the early sun lit up my flower beds. I'd been neglecting them lately. I realized, too consumed with Noah's wedding preparations. Some of the perennials needed dividing. The roses needed pruning. And weeds had started encroaching on the vegetable patch. I spent the morning working in the garden, finding comfort in the simple physical labor. By the time Olivia arrived around noon, I was dirt-streaked and sweaty, but feeling more centered than I had in months. Mom, she wrapped me in a fierce hug the moment I opened the door. You look fantastic, is that a tan? I laughed, returning her embrace. A bit of one, yes. Maui was good for me. We settled in the kitchen with sandwiches and iced tea, catching up properly. Olivia had brought photos from her phone of the chaotic almost wedding day, including one of William being confronted by Mr. Martinez in the country club parking lot. I shouldn't laugh, I said, studying the image of my red-faced ex-husband backing away from Jasmine's dignified father. But there's a certain poetic justice here. It was something to see, Olivia agreed. Mr. Martinez really let him have it. Said Dad was a disgrace to fatherhood and should be ashamed to look his children in the eye. I winced. That's harsh. But accurate, Olivia pointed out. Dad tried to help Jasmine steal your house. Mom, while asking you for $800 for a wedding gift, the man has no shame. She was right, of course. William's behavior was inexcusable. But part of me, the part that had once loved him, had once built a life with him, felt a twinge of sadness at how far he'd fallen. What about Noah? I asked, changing the subject. Have you seen him? Olivia's expression softened. Yesterday, I brought him groceries. He's not good. Mom, he's barely eating, hardly sleeping. He keeps saying he's ruined everything. My chest tightened. Whatever Noah had done, he was still my son, the little boy who'd once brought me dandelions and called them sunflowers, the teenager who'd defended me fiercely when kids at school made remarks about our broken home. Has he said anything about wanting to see me? Olivia nodded. He's asked about you every time we've spoken, wants to know when you're coming back. If you'll talk to him. She hesitated. He says he needs to explain, that it's not what it looks like. And what do you think? I asked carefully. Do you believe him? She was quiet for a long moment. I want to, but I also thought I knew my brother, and then he excluded you from his wedding without even telling me. So I don't know what to believe anymore. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. It's okay to still love him, Olivia. He's made mistakes, big ones, but he's still your brother. And he's still your son, she said pointedly. Yes, I agreed. He is. After Olivia left, I spent the afternoon unpacking the last of my suitcase and catching up on mail. Among the bills and advertisements was a thick cream-colored envelope with my name handwritten in elegant script. Inside was a formal note on heavy stationery. Dear Mrs. Thompson, please accept our family's deepest apologies for the distress caused by recent events. We are profoundly embarrassed by our daughter's behavior and the disrespect shown to you. In our culture, mothers are to be honored above all others. What happened to you goes against everything we believe and have taught our children. While words cannot undo the harm caused, we hope that in time, healing may be possible for all concerned. With sincere regrets, Miguel and Elena Martinez. Enclosed with the note was a gift certificate to a high-end spa in Atlanta, a thoughtful gesture from people who owed me nothing. I was touched by their integrity, their willingness to acknowledge the wrong done to me, even when it implicated their own daughter. That evening, as I was preparing a simple dinner, my doorbell rang. My heart jumped, though I didn't know who I expected or wanted it to be. Through the peephole, I saw Noah standing on my porch, shoulders slumped, hands shoved in his pockets. He looked thinner than when I'd left, with dark circles under his eyes and hair that hadn't been washed in days. For a moment, I considered not answering. I wasn't sure I was ready for this conversation, but the sight of him looking so defeated stirred something primal in me, the mother who had soothed fevers and kissed scraped knees, who had held him through nightmares and celebrated his triumphs. I opened the door. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking on that single syllable. "You're home." "Since yesterday," I confirmed, not yet inviting him in. He swallowed hard. "Can we talk, please?" I studied him for a long moment, this grown man who was still, in so many ways, my little boy. Then I stepped back, opening the door wider. "Come in." Noah moved past me into the house, his steps hesitant, like he wasn't sure of his welcome. In the living room, he stood awkwardly, as if he'd forgotten how to occupy space in the home where he'd grown up. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the couch. "Would you like something to drink?" "No, thank you." He sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped between his knees. "Mom, Wait," I interrupted. "Before you say anything, I need you to understand something. I'm willing to listen, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to forgive. What happened, what you did, hurt me deeply, more than I can express." He nodded, looking down at his hands. "I know, and I deserve that. All of it. I've been trying to understand myself, how I let things get so messed up." "Let's start with the truth," I suggested, sitting in the armchair across from him. "Did you know that Jasmine and your father were discussing my house?" "No," Noah said firmly, looking me in the eye. "I swear to you, Mom, I had no idea until Mr. Martinez confronted them at the country club. I would never—" His voice broke. "I would never try to take your home from you. Never." I wanted to believe him, looking at his face so earnest, so devastated it was hard not to. But trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. "And the text?" I asked. "The one uninviting me from the wedding." Noah's face flushed with shame. "Jasmine sent it. From my phone. I was in surgery, like I told you." "But—" He took a deep breath. "But I knew she was going to talk to you about reducing your involvement. I just didn't know she was going to cut you out completely. And when you found out—" He couldn't hold my gaze now. "I should have called you immediately. I should have fixed it. But Jasmine was so upset, saying her parents would be horrified if the wedding wasn't perfect, that having a divorced mother of the groom would embarrass her family. And you believe that—" "I didn't want to," Noah admitted. "But she was so convincing. She said her parents were traditional, that they'd paid for her brother's wedding last year, and everything had been perfect, that they expected the same for her." "Except they didn't," I pointed out. "I was paying for most of it. And Mr. Martinez seems like a kind, reasonable man, not someone who would judge me for being divorced." "I know that now," Noah said miserably. "After meeting them, I realized so much of what Jasmine told me wasn't true. But by then," he spread his hands helplessly, "by then I'd already hurt you. I'd already lost you." I let his words hang in the air between us, not rushing to fill the silence. Part of me wanted to reach out, to comfort him as I always had. But another part, the part still raw with betrayal, held back. "Why did you go along with it?" I asked finally. "After you knew what she'd done." Noah's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I wish I had a good answer. I was a coward. I was afraid of losing her. I told myself it was just one day, that it wouldn't matter in the long run. He shook his head. I was so wrong, so incredibly, unforgivably wrong. "Yes," I agreed softly. "You were. When everything fell apart, when the vendors started calling saying everything was canceled, I was furious with you." He continued. "I couldn't see past my own plans being ruined. But then at the country club, when Mr. Martinez confronted Dad and Jasmine—" He trailed off, visibly struggling. "What made—" "I saw myself through his eyes," Noah said. "Through the eyes of a father who respects his family. who honors his elders. And I was ashamed. Mom, so deeply ashamed of what I'd become. A tear slipped down his cheek and he wiped it away roughly. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not sure I deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I see what I did now. I understand how badly I hurt you, and I'm more sorry than I can ever express. I studied my son's face, seeing both the man he'd become and the boy he'd been. The pain etched into his features was genuine. I'd known him too long not to recognize that. But was it enough? Could words, however heartfelt, repair what had been broken between us? Noah, I said carefully, I believe that you're sorry, and I'm glad you came today. But trust isn't rebuilt in a single conversation. It takes time and actions, not just words. He nodded, wiping away another tear. I know. I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness. I needed to see you. To start somewhere. This is a start, I acknowledged. A small one. We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of everything said and unsaid filling the space between us. Finally, I asked the question that had been hovering at the edge of my thoughts. What about Jasmine? Have you spoken to her since the wedding day? Noah's expression hardened slightly. Once, she called to ask if she could pick up some things she'd left at my apartment. I told her to send a friend. He paused. She tried to blame everything on Dad, said he'd manipulated her into discussing your house. But I'm not that blind anymore. And now, he shrugged, a gesture of genuine uncertainty. Now I'm just trying to understand how I got here, how I let someone convince me that shutting out my own mother was acceptable, how I became someone I don't recognize. People make mistakes, Noah, I said quietly. Even big ones. Is that what this was, just a mistake? His voice was hollow. It feels like so much more, like a fundamental failing as a son, as a human being. I didn't rush to contradict him. His guilt was appropriate, necessary, even for genuine growth, but I also couldn't bear to see him drowning in it. You failed me, I said simply. That's true, but failure isn't final unless you let it be. Noah looked up, a faint hope flickering in his eyes. Is there any chance we could rebuild, that someday things could be better between us? I considered my answer carefully. I think it's possible, not guaranteed, but possible. It will take time, Noah, and effort, real effort, not just words. I understand, he said, with more conviction than I'd heard from him all evening. I'm willing to do the work. Mom, whatever it takes. We'll see, I said, neither promising nor rejecting. It was the most honest answer I could give. When Noah left an hour later, I felt emotionally drained but strangely peaceful. The conversation hadn't resolved everything, how could it? But it had been a beginning. A clearing of the air that allowed us both to see more clearly where we stood. That night, I slept better than I had since receiving that devastating text message weeks ago. Not because everything was fixed, but because, for the first time, I could envision a path forward. 2 weeks after my return from Maui, life had settled into a new rhythm. I'd returned to my volunteer work at the hospital, started a twice-weekly yoga class, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the wedding planning chaos. Noah and I had established a cautious new pattern of communication: brief texts every few days, a short phone call once a week, baby steps toward rebuilding, with careful boundaries on both sides. He was back at work, throwing himself into his medical practice with renewed dedication. We didn't discuss Jasmine or the wedding, focusing instead on neutral topics, a book he was reading, a new hiking trail I'd discovered. Olivia came for dinner every Sunday, bringing news and laughter into my kitchen. She'd begun dating someone new, a kind, quiet architectural engineer named James, who looked at her like she'd hung the moon. Seeing her happy eased something in my heart that had been tight for too long. William, thankfully, had made himself scarce. Whatever Mr. Martinez had said to him that day in the country club parking lot seemed to have made an impression. Life was healing, slowly but surely, like a wound gradually knitting itself closed. Until the doorbell rang on a Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I checked the peephole before opening the door. What I saw made me step back in shock. Jasmine Martinez stood on my porch, looking nothing like the confident, polished woman I remembered. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face bare of makeup, her posture uncharacteristically hesitant. My first instinct was to pretend I wasn't home, to back away silently and let her believe no one was there. But something curiosity, perhaps, or a deeper need for resolution made me open the door instead. "Mrs. Thompson," Jasmine said, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see right now." "You would be correct," I confirmed, making no move to invite her in. She nodded, accepting this. "I understand, I needed to speak with you. In person. If you'll allow it." I studied her for a long moment, the young woman who had systematically pushed me out of my son's life, who had plotted with my ex-husband to take my home, who had caused pain I was still struggling to process, but also the woman Noah had once loved enough to want to marry, the daughter of the kind, dignified Miguel Martinez, who had stood up for me when my own family wouldn't. 5 minutes, I said finally, stepping back to allow her entry. "No more." "Thank you," she murmured, slipping past me into the house, in the living room. She perched awkwardly on the edge of the same couch where Noah had sat 2 weeks earlier. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in the family photos, the bookshelves, the comfortable furnishings that made this place my home. "Why are you here, Jasmine?" I asked, remaining standing. I wasn't going to offer tea or make this visit comfortable. She took a deep breath. "To apologize, to explain, if I can." Her hands twisted together nervously in her lap. "What I did to you was unforgivable. I know that. I'm not here asking for forgiveness." "Then what are you asking for?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "I'm not asking for anything. I needed you to know the truth. About everything." I crossed my arms, skeptical but willing to listen. "Go on." "I was jealous of you," she blurted, the words seeming to surprise even her. "From the very beginning. The way Noah talked about you, the relationship you had. I'd never had that with my mother." This wasn't at all what I'd expected. "What do you mean?" Jasmine's eyes fixed on her hands. "My parents look perfect from the outside, successful, elegant, respected in the community. But inside our home, my mother is cold, critical. Nothing I ever did was good enough. I was either too fat or too thin, too loud or too quiet, too ambitious or not ambitious enough." I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "When I met Noah and saw how he talked about you with such love and respect, I was envious. And then when I met you," she looked up at me finally. "You were everything my mother wasn't. Warm, supportive, genuinely happy for Noah's success instead of taking credit for it. So you pushed me away because I was too nice." I couldn't keep the incredulity from my voice. "No." "Yes." "I don't know." She shook her head in frustration. "It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, but I couldn't handle it. The contrast between you and my mother was too painful. It highlighted everything I'd never had." I softened slightly despite myself, not enough to forgive, but enough to recognize the complexity of the situation. "That explains some of your behavior, but not the text message, not the lies to your parents about me declining to attend, and certainly not the discussions with William about my house." Jasmine's face flushed with shame. "The text was impulsive. Noah had left his phone when he went into surgery, and I saw your message about the rehearsal dinner. I just snapped, sent the text without thinking. When Noah found out, he was horrified, but I convinced him it was for the best, that having you there would overshadow me. And my house," I prompted, not letting her evade the most serious accusation. Her flush deepened. "Your ex-husband approached me first, at the engagement party. He mentioned that Noah had grown up in this house, that it was the family home, and shouldn't it really belong to the next generation? He made it sound so reasonable. There's nothing reasonable about conspiring to take someone's home, I said flatly. I know that now, she said quickly. I do. But William was persuasive. He kept saying you were getting older, that the house was too much for you to maintain, that you'd be happier in a smaller place, that helping you downsize would be doing you a favor. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. And you believed him, a man who left his family, who barely supported his children. I didn't know any of that, Jasmine protested. Noah never talks about his childhood. When I asked about his father, he just said you were divorced when he was 12. That's all. She looked down again. I should have asked more questions. Should have wondered why Noah never suggested inviting his father to dinner, why they barely spoke. This, at least, rang true. Noah had always been protective of me when it came to William's abandonment. He rarely spoke of that time, even to me. My father was right to stop the wedding, Jasmine continued softly. He saw what I couldn't or wouldn't see, that I was making terrible choices, hurting people who didn't deserve it. Where are you living now? I asked, surprising myself with the question. With my parents, temporarily. She gave a small, sad smile. I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did, why I hurt someone my fiancé loved so much. I nodded, acknowledging her words without offering absolution. Your 5 minutes are up, Jasmine. She rose immediately. Respect for boundaries apparently a new skill she was practicing. Thank you for listening. Mrs. Thompson, I know it doesn't change anything, but I am truly sorry for the pain I caused. I walked her to the door, maintaining the emotional distance I needed to protect myself. At the threshold, she paused and reached into her purse, pulling out a small envelope. My parents wanted me to return this to you, she said, holding it out. It's a check for all the deposits you paid. They insist. I took the envelope, noting the Martinez family seal embossed on the paper. Your parents seem like honorable people. They are, she agreed. That's why this has been so hard for them. They raised me to be better than this. As she turned to leave, a question rose to my lips before I could stop it. Do you still love him, Noah? Jasmine looked back, her eyes glistening. Yes, but loving someone doesn't mean you're right for them. Noah deserves someone who will treasure his family, not try to separate him from it. She stepped off the porch. Goodbye, Mrs. Thompson. I watched her walk to her car, this young woman who had nearly become my daughter-in-law, who had caused me so much pain, who was now apparently trying to find a better path. I wasn't ready to forgive her. Might never be. But as I closed the door and returned to my quiet living room, I felt another small piece of the jagged anger inside me smooth over, like a sharp stone worn down by persistent waves. Autumn arrived with a painter's palette of red and gold, transforming my neighborhood into a canvas of falling leaves and harvest decorations. I'd always loved this time of year, the cooler temperatures, the golden afternoon light, the sense of the world preparing for rest and renewal. 3 months had passed since the wedding that wasn't. 3 months of careful healing, of rebuilding broken connections, of rediscovering who Emily Thompson was when she wasn't defining herself solely as Noah and Olivia's mother. My relationship with Noah had improved, slowly but steadily. We'd progressed from awkward phone calls to occasional dinners, from surface conversations to deeper discussions about what had happened and why. He was in therapy too, working through the patterns that had made him vulnerable to Jasmine's manipulation and William's influence. I realized I've been looking for Dad's approval my whole life, he told me over coffee one Sunday afternoon. Even though I hated how he treated you, some part of me still wanted him to see me as worthy. That's why I couldn't see what he was doing with Jasmine. I wanted so badly to believe he cared. My heart ached for the 12-year-old boy who'd lost his father and never really gotten over it. We all have blind spots when it comes to family. But you were my family too. Mom, the parent who stayed, the one who sacrificed everything for us. And I chose him over you when it mattered most. Noah's voice cracked with emotion. I'll never forgive myself for that. You have to, I said gently. Holding on to that guilt won't help either of us move forward. Noah reached across the table and squeezed my hand the first time he'd initiated physical contact since that devastating text message months ago. I'm trying. As for William, he'd made one attempt to contact me, a self-serving email explaining that he'd only been thinking of Noah's future when discussing my house with Jasmine. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Olivia's relationship with James was flourishing. He'd started joining us for Sunday dinners, his quiet stability a perfect complement to her vibrant energy. Watching them together reminded me of the early days with William, before ambition and restlessness had soured him. "Mom," Olivia said one evening as we cleared the dinner dishes together, "James asked me to move in with him." "That's wonderful," I said sincerely. "If that's what you want." "It is," she smiled, a private happiness lighting her face. "But I wanted to make sure you're okay with it. You've been through so much this year, and I don't want you to feel abandoned." I pulled her into a hug. "Sweetheart, I want you to live your life. Be happy. Build your future with James. I'm doing just fine." And I was, to my own surprise. The yoga classes had led to friendships with women my age who were also redefining themselves in their 50s and 60s. I'd started taking a watercolor painting course at the community center. I'd even accepted a dinner invitation from Dr. Martin, a widowed pediatrician I'd known for years through my hospital volunteer work. Life was opening up in ways I hadn't anticipated when I'd booked that impulsive flight to Maui 4 months ago. In late October, a large envelope arrived from the Martinez family. Inside was an invitation to their annual Thanksgiving gathering, along with a handwritten note from Miguel. "Dear Emily, our family's tradition is to gather those we respect and admire for Thanksgiving dinner. We would be honored if you would join us this year. Noah and Olivia are also invited. Of course, though we have extended their invitations separately to leave the choice entirely yours. With warm regards, Miguel Martinez." I sat with the invitation for several days, uncertain how to respond. The Martinez family had shown me nothing but kindness and respect throughout this difficult time. Miguel had stood up for me when my own family wouldn't. His wife had sent thoughtful notes and small gifts. Even Jasmine, in her own way, had tried to make amends. But Thanksgiving with the family of the woman who had tried to exclude me from my son's wedding, who had plotted to take my home. It seemed surreal. I called Olivia for advice. "I got an invitation too," she confirmed. "James and I have been talking about it. He thinks we should go. Actually, says the Martinez family sounds like good people who made the best of a bad situation." "What do you think?" I asked. "I think—" She paused, considering. "I think it might be healing. For all of us. Noah's going, by the way. He called me yesterday about it." "He is." This surprised me. "He's comfortable being around Jasmine." "It's not about being comfortable," Olivia explained. "It's about closure, moving forward. He said Mr. Martinez has been a kind of mentor to him these past few months, helping him understand what it means to be a man of integrity." The thought of Noah finding guidance from Miguel Martinez, learning to be a better man from the father of the woman who'd hurt us both, was strangely moving. Life had a way of creating unexpected connections out of brokenness. After more thought, I called Miguel and accepted the invitation. Thanksgiving Day dawned clear and crisp, the kind of perfect fall day that makes you grateful just to be alive. I drove to the Martinez home, an elegant colonial in Buckhead, with a sense of cautious optimism. Whatever happened today, I had survived worse. I had rebuilt myself from the broken pieces of a marriage, raised 2 children alone, and found my way back from betrayal. I could handle a potentially awkward dinner. Olivia and James met me in the driveway, both looking nervous but determined. "Noah's already inside," Olivia told me as we walked up the front path. "He got here early to help set up." The door opened before we could ring the bell, revealing Miguel Martinez in a festive autumn-colored sweater. "Emily," he greeted me warmly, taking both my hands in his. "Thank you for coming. Your presence honors our home." "Thank you for inviting me," I replied, genuinely touched by his welcome. Inside, the house was alive with the sounds and scents of Thanksgiving conversation. Laughter, the rich aroma of roasting turkey and spices. About 30 people mingled in the spacious living room, Some I recognized from photos as members of the Martinez family, others apparently friends like us. Noah appeared from a side room, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. He was carrying a tray of appetizers, apparently helping with the hosting duties. When he spotted me, his face lit up with a smile that took me back to his childhood, open, unguarded, genuinely happy. "Mom," he said, setting down the tray and coming to embrace me. "You came." I hugged him back, feeling the solid warmth of him. "I did." "I'm glad," he whispered, and I knew he meant it. Elena Martinez appeared next, elegant and gracious as she welcomed us and introduced us to other guests. If she felt any awkwardness about the situation, she didn't show it. Instead, she treated me with the same warm respect her husband did, making sure I was comfortable and included. Jasmine was there. Of course it was her family home, but she kept a respectful distance, offering only a polite greeting before engaging with other guests. I appreciated her sensitivity to the delicacy of the situation. As we moved toward the dining room, I found myself walking beside Miguel. "Thank you again for including us," I said. "It can't have been an easy decision," he smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "On the contrary, the easiest decisions are the ones guided by respect and principle." He glanced around at the gathering. "Family is complicated. Emily, it brings us our greatest joys and our deepest sorrows. But without it, what are we?" "Simpler, perhaps," I suggested with a small smile. He laughed, a rich, genuine sound. "Perhaps, but also poorer in all the ways that matter most." The Thanksgiving meal was a blend of traditional American dishes and Mexican specialties, turkey alongside tamales, cranberry sauce beside mole, pumpkin pie and flan. The conversation flowed easily, touching on politics, books, travel, and family stories. I watched Noah across the table, noting how comfortable he seemed in this home, with these people, how he'd found a kind of family here, even after losing Jasmine. It was unexpected, but somehow right a reminder that connections between people can transcend the boundaries we try to place around them. Later, as guests moved back to the living room for coffee and dessert, I found a quiet moment alone on the Martinez's back porch. The air was crisp with approaching winter, the sky clear and star-filled. I wrapped my cardigan tighter around me, breathing in the peace of the moment. The door opened behind me, and Noah stepped out, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "Thought you might want this," he said, offering me one. "Thank you." I took the mug gratefully, warming my hands around it. Noah leaned against the porch railing beside me, looking out at the carefully landscaped yard. "Strange day, huh? Being here, with everyone." "Strange but good," I admitted. "The Martinez family has been surprisingly kind through all of this." "They're good people," Noah agreed. "Better than I deserved, considering everything." We stood in companionable silence for a few minutes, sipping our coffee and watching our breath cloud in the cold air. "Mom," Noah said finally, his voice soft but steady. "I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry. For everything. For the pain I caused you." "I know you are. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about how I let myself be manipulated, how I failed to stand up for what matters." He turned to face me fully. "I won't make those mistakes again. Ever." I studied my son's face, seeing the sincerity there, the genuine growth. "I believe you. Do you think—" He hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his features. "Do you think we'll ever get back to where we were before all this happened?" I considered the question carefully. "No," I said honestly. "We can't go back. Too much has changed. But maybe we can build something new. Something better, because it's based on truth and respect, not just habit and obligation." Noah nodded slowly, absorbing this. "I'd like that." "So would I." He reached out hesitantly, and I took his hand, squeezing it gently. We weren't fully healed, the scars would always be there, but we were moving forward, finding a new way to be mother and son in this changed landscape. Inside, I could hear laughter and conversation, the sounds of people connecting, sharing, building bonds. Life continuing, evolving, creating new patterns from broken pieces. We should go back in, I suggested. It's getting cold out here. As we turned toward the door, Noah paused, looking at me with a depth of understanding that hadn't been there before. You know what I'm most thankful for this year, Mom. That you were strong enough to stand up for yourself. That you taught me that love doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. Better late than never, I suppose, I said with a small smile. Much better, he agreed, holding the door for me. We rejoined the gathering, moving back into the warmth and light of the Martinez home. As I accepted a slice of pumpkin pie from Elena and settled into conversation with one of their friends, I felt a sense of rightness wash over me. This wasn't the future I had imagined when I was ironing Noah's shirt for the rehearsal dinner all those months ago. It was messier, more complicated, less certain, but it was also more authentic, more balanced, more mine. I had lost a wedding but found myself, lost old illusions but gained new clarity, lost unquestioning sacrifice but gained genuine respect from others. Yes, but most importantly, from myself. And in the end, that was the gift hidden within that painful text message, the chance to finally, after all these years, choose myself. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below.